I would like to welcome our filmmakers from that most recent block to the stage, please. Maia Insinga, Walter Haussner, I believe you're both in the house. And then joining us via Zoom, we have Shelly Lipkin and Deanna Morse.
Hi, everyone.
Shelly,
Hi.
oh, okay, great. We'll have you up on screen in just a second. Thank you.
Oh, so we are going to be on the screen. Oh, how cool. That's neat.
Bear with me. I'll be with you in just a second there. Thank you, both of you, for being here. And thank you,
Sure.
Shelly and Deanna, for joining us virtually. First of all, again, apologies. We are running way behind schedule today. We had some massive technical errors this morning, and things just kind of got compounded from there. But thank you so much for joining us. Shelly's film was the one that we just saw, Inheritance. And Deanna worked on the first film that we saw from this block, Connecting, the Zoom call film. Maia Insinga here made After the Burn, the documentary about how oyster mushrooms can help clean up after fires. And Walter Haussner made the film Dulce et Decorum Est, the story of the veteran reciting a World War I poem. Thank you, all four of you, for being here. First of all, I'd like to go to Shelly because Shelly, this was his first time directing, but he may be a familiar face to you. He has been a long time actor, appearing in many television shows and films over the years. Shelly, perhaps you'd like to explain the motivation behind going behind the camera after you'd spent so many years in front of the camera.
Sure. Well, first of all, I did a lot of directing in theater because that's where I got my start. So I had directed quite a lot of theater productions as well as acting in them. And because I had done so much film, I started teaching film, and I'm a screenwriter, so I also teach screenwriting. And one of my screenwriting and acting students came to me and said, I wrote this short. Would you help me work on it? So I gave her some notes. She did some rewrites. And then she came to me and said, would you direct it? And I had never directed a film before, but I filmed so many actors in my classes. I thought, give it a whirl. And I got a really good DP and a really good sound person, which is what you need, and great producer, Eva, and it all came together. And we were very fortunate. We had a tight crew, and they saved me whenever I went astray. So it was kind of a perfect combination of everyone, which is collaborative and the way it's got to be.
Terrific. And Deanna, the Connecting film, you made that with your good friend Melissa Bauman. And I'm sure everyone in this room has had their fill of Zoom calls at this point, which is ironic to say while we're talking on Zoom at the moment. But it's been a year for, in hindsight, wishing that I had invested in Zoom stock around February 2020, right before everything hit. What compelled everyone to say, you know what, we've been on 7,000 Zoom calls at this point. Why don't we make a film about it and spend so many more hours trying to choreograph this crazy thing?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I was Zooming with some animators. I'm in part of an animation group in the Midwest, and we were Zooming together, and we just started playing around a little bit and saying, like, well, what if we, like, is there a way that we could use animation to create through these boxes? Like, have, I might pass something from this box, and then you'd pick it up, and it would change over time, do cutout animation. And I found, for me, I just woke up at night and I couldn't stop thinking about how you could use cutout animation within the Zoom space. And we got really enthused about it. And Melissa and I got enthused about it. And we worked on it over about a 6-week period. We Zoomed several times a week, just playing with ideas of how we could make the Zoom space be a little more playful and a little less stoic and staid, and just to reconsider the Zoom space as a platform for communication.
Fantastic. I see. Is that Joan Thorndike or Joanne Feinberg who has joined us as well?
This is Joan Thorndike.
Joan, hello. Thank you for being here. We appreciate
Can you hear
it.
me?
Yes, yes.
Hello.
So Joan was the subject of the film Bloom. Joan has been growing flowers for how many years is it? 30 plus years that you've been growing flowers in Southern Oregon?
Finishing my 29th season.
29
So,
seasons. Okay.
Almost 30.
Fantastic. Well, since you're here, we'll get to our onstage directors and just there you are. Hello, Joan. Wow, you're even out tending to the garden as we speak.
Yes, Sundays are our harvest day. So we're out picking flowers.
What's currently in season?
Ooh, a very long list. We keep a harvest calendar on our website. There's probably still about 70 species available of foliage and grasses and berries and flowers, including the classics, sunflowers and amaranths and marigolds and things we expect at this time of year. But we're a restless type. We grow a lot of weird things. Anything that doesn't travel well in a box, because our competition are all the flowers that come from overseas in boxes.
Yeah, so everything is locally sourced and locally grown through her farm, which is fantastic. And your farm started off very humbly, right? And now you're the largest flower grower in Southern Oregon. Is that right?
Wow.
Yes, we are. We are. Yes, we grow about 10 acres of flowers and maybe about a dozen greenhouses and shade houses. Yes.
Fantastic. And then Maia, hello. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making the trek all the way down from Portland to join us. Maia's film, After the Burn, fits really well with the film that we saw last night about the Alameda fires. Obviously, wildfires have been a huge impact to our area here in Southern Oregon and across the state. The Alameda fire happened almost a year to the day last year, and then we just experienced the bootleg fire here in Southern Oregon that was massive. Your film takes a different spin of looking at the after effects and some of the positive sides of these tragic incidences. How did you get involved in that, and what made you want to make a film about how growing mushrooms naturally can actually be better cleanup than some of our traditional methods after fires?
Yeah, so for my project, I was doing a fellowship at Oregon State, and I just had to pick a topic for the fellowship, and I didn't know anything about mycoremediation, let alone using it for forest fires. So I just did a little bit of research and found the topic through some random YouTube video that just had like a 2-second blurb about it. So I did a lot more research and digging into it, and just thought it was super interesting, and I wanted to do my film on that. But yeah, I think it's just really powerful to use the mushrooms instead of something, that's not natural to clean up after it, because when you think about the scale of all the homes that have burned down, it's pretty difficult to even start with that. But if you can maybe just start with one area using the mushrooms, it's just such a natural and cool way to clean up after the events.
It's a topic that I would love to see you delve deeper. I know it was a school-related project, but there's so much more science behind this that could be explored and looked into of natural methods. Because wildfires in our state are not going away, and it seems like every summer they're only getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And there's the huge issue of what do we do with the after effects. Your film showcases a really brilliant potential solution if there's funding to back it and more research done on natural methods for a cleaner, healthier cleanup and renewal of the topsoils as opposed to using chemical purposes, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure Joan is probably very intrigued by your film as someone who grows full time. So,
I'm very intrigued, definitely. And because I live here in the fire zone, our field got singed in the fire. The fire started about 2 blocks south of our farm. And, and so we lost 4 of our workers on our farm, lost their houses. Their houses burned in the fire. And so we feel it very deeply, what has happened. And as you said, they're not going away. This is our reality, unfortunately, and we need to do things very differently, for sure. So hooray for you finding that mushrooms might be a better way to mop up.
Thank you.
Maia, do you know, since you completed this film, of any further development? Have you been in contact with some of the subjects that you interviewed to know if there's further development of this process, or if it's being utilized in the field at this point, or if it's still like under test levels, or what?
I actually do not know. I have not been in contact with them since I created the film, so that's a good question to ask them for sure. But I know that some of them were in the preliminary stages of the research, so they hadn't gotten the results back.
Okay.
But Cheetah, who was in the film, had got his results back.
Fantastic. And Walter, hello, sir. Thank you for being patient. I know we've gone a lot longer today than you were expecting for your film to be shown. Your film is extraordinary as a monologue. And at first it can be a little bit confusing to wonder, because it's set as a Vietnam veteran, but it's set to a World War I poem and an extraordinary poet. And yet the two overlap so well. It shows that even different eras, there's still parallels from war to war. Could you explain a little bit more the story behind the poet and the person who wrote it, and why you chose to set it in the setting that your film, putting it in the setting that you did?
Sure. Wilfred Owen was a officer in the British Army during World War I. You may have seen basically a synopsis at the end of the film. And he was interested in poetry before the war, and he was wounded in 1917 and was convalescing in Scotland. And there was a rather prominent British war poet, Siegfried Sassoon, who was there convalescing with him, and he mentored him to a certain degree. And it seems like Wilfred Owen's, but his capabilities, his talent just exploded under this tutelage. And that's where the poem came from. Of course, he deployed after he was better, and as you may have read there, he died a week before the armistice was signed. But there's a real strong tradition of war poets from that particular conflict. A lot of British, but there are German and also American ones. But the British poets have always been compelling to me, and particularly him. I mean, I can't think of a stronger war or anti-war poem. That's essentially what it is. I mean, that's the title. And I was working with Steve, who did the reading on a film, and we were talking about poetry, and we had an idea. Wouldn't it be great to have some actors do readings of Vietnam-era poems? And I don't think that had been done before. And we were talking. I mentioned this particular poem. He saw it, and he was really keen on doing it. I was keen on working with him on it, and we wanted to be chronologically true to his age. And he's in his 60s, and okay, if he'd been in World War I, he would have been around 1966, 67. So we said, let's make it Vietnam era. I mean, we're in a continuous cycle of wars, and I don't think if we did it for Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, it wouldn't really matter. It's pretty much the same thing. But we chose Vietnam, and didn't really want it to be just a reading. We wanted it to be more of a flashback or a remembrance. And I needed a trigger device for flashbacks. Usually have a trigger device to make them come, to onslaught. So I had a friend that I was stationed in Egypt with, who was a voice actor, and I corresponded with him. We did some research from 66, 67, some of the events, and he built the radio broadcast based on that. And that's pretty much the story of it.
And there's a whole Wilfred Owen Society that celebrates his works, and you actually got special acknowledgement from them for your film, right?
Yes, Elizabeth Owen is the husband of Wilfred Owen's nephew, Peter Owen. Peter Owen passed away about 4 years ago, and she became the president of the association. And it was important to us to get their approval on the poem, so I sent it to their secretary, and she forwarded it to Elizabeth, and I heard back from her, and she said it's the best rendering that she's heard, which really meant a lot to me and Steve, because, I mean, Kenneth Branagh, I mean, the cream of British acting, have done that poem probably one time or another, so that meant more to us than anything, really.
Fantastic. As a reminder to our audience, we have a microphone there and there if you would like to ask a question to any of our Q&A members. And thank you all of you for being here. I realize we're way behind schedule, and so we'll probably have to cut our Q&As short a little bit. But Shelly, I do want to come back to you unless someone has a question, because what's really fascinating about your film is that the lead actress also wrote the film and based it on her personal story. It's essentially a true story, right? Oh, sorry, Shelly, you are muted.
Now I'm unmuted.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes, it is a true story. Actually, the lead actress grew up on a commune, and so she had a very different lifestyle. And I'm not sure how accurate it is to her actual sister on this, but she did go through that, and it was a powerful look at what you have to deal with when we were talking about this previously. To get a DNA test for any kind of a disease, to know that at some point in your life you may be hit with this, and then you can see the future. Basically, it's a time machine. And so you're looking at the possibility of, cancer or heart disease or Alzheimer's or any one of those, and knowing that the clock is ticking and it could happen in any second. So the impact is enormous when you get that. And I always thought, why in the heck would you want to have that test? But it does save lives in the instance of breast cancer, because you can do something about it. But what that does then to the individual, especially in this film, this young woman who has the whole rest of her life going for her, has never really married, hasn't had kids yet. She talks about that in the film. What kind of an impact is that when you know it's going to affect how you look? It's going to affect the fact that you could never nurse your child. All those things come into play.
Yeah, it's fascinating because you built it as a narration, but it had to have been interesting emotionally for someone to act in a story they wrote based on their own family.
Yeah, and she, oddly enough, she didn't talk about her personal experiences with that much. I guess what she felt is, I'll put it all in film. But I think it impacted her acting quite a bit, because there was a moment when she was listening on the phone, and she actually had done that, I think, in real life, and it was quite an amazing tool to use, a device in the film to constantly bring that in, and the impact it had on her when she put that phone to her head was immense. It was wonderful to watch.
Deanna, connecting. Anyone in here, and we have quite a few filmmakers in here, who has ever tried to do choreography for films, whether it's dancing or like an action fighting scene or something like that, we know how lengthy of a process that is to try to get right. And so I really would love to hear just how long it took to try to choreograph essentially stop motion animation through a Zoom call. I'm not sure if anyone's ever thought of that before you and Melissa did it.
Yeah, I don't know if it was new or not. It could have been at the time, but one of the things that we did was we just took a frame And then we would freeze on that frame, capture that frame, and then move something, capture again, move, capture, move, capture, move, capture, and then put the movie together afterwards. So it really was done as an animation, frame by frame. And, you know, the challenges were left-right orientation and where our places were, and then for some of the shots, like holding your arm in the right place for a long time. But it was also just tremendous fun. And we had a lot of time to play with each other. It was a great group, very collaborative, very team-oriented. And I think the film captures that kind of spirit in the end. You feel the sense of play and celebration of just people connecting distantly with each other while we were in lockdown.
Well, thank you so much, Shelly and Deanna, for your films. I want to give the filmmakers a final opportunity to speak that we haven't had a chance to hear from yet. For lengthier Q&As, again, as a reminder, if you have an online pass, when you go to check out their films on demand as part of the Klamath Independent Film Festival, afterwards we have a lengthy Q&A with each and every one of these filmmakers where we can go into more detail about each of their films. So, Joan, do you have any final thoughts about either your film Bloom or being a part of the Klamath Independent Film Festival you'd like to share?
Well, I just want to say that, you know, I'm not the genius in the film. It's Joanne Feinberg, the filmmaker. And I appreciate so much that she chose to film a local farm. And farms are sort of a hidden part of a community. And yet we flower our community that really goes from Northern California to not quite Eugene, but those are all the florists that we serve, and we serve weddings and so on. And we are a certified organic farm. And Joanne, having taken several years to film what amounted to 3 minutes in the end, lived and breathed what it's like to be a farmer, to run a farm, to deal with weather, and etc. And I'm so grateful to her, and I'm grateful that she chose to tell the story. So thank you, and thank you for including her film in your film festival.
Well, thank you for joining us, Joan. Maia, thank you also for being here. I know this project was related to your education, but now that you've graduated from OSU, are you pursuing being a filmmaker again? Is this something that you want to continue to do as a career path, or do you have different plans in mind?
That's my plan right now. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Terrific. Do you have an idea yet of what your next project will be?
No, I don't right now.
Okay. Well, you know, think about it. Maybe we'll see you here again next year.
Yeah,
okay?
that'd be great.
Any final thoughts on your film that you would like to share?
Just that I'm really glad that I could have it in this film festival, and it was really cool to see it on the big screen. So I just had a great time getting to see it in all the other films.
That brings up a good point. Deanna, Joan, Shelly, Maia, and Walter, maybe just a quick yes confirmation. Was this the first time that your films have been shown on a big screen?
No, not for me.
Not for me either. But I do want to thank you for zooming us in, and thank you for showing the film. And I'm so sorry I can't be there to experience it.
Shelly, how about yours? Has your film been shown before?
Ours had been in another festival, the McMinnville Film Festival. And,
Okay.
And again, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity. This was great.
Thank you. And Walter and Maia, was this the first time that your film has been shown?
Yeah.
So we have a world premiere over here for your film. Congratulations on that. Walter, how about you?
This is the second time. The first time was a drive-in setting, though. I like this better.
The first time in a theater, right?
Yes,
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Shelly Lipkin, Deanna Morse, Joan Thorndike, Walter Haussner, and Maia Insinga. How about a hand for all of our wonderful filmmakers for coping with the times category?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you, for joining us via Zoom. We are on to our final category, and then we will do our awards for the night. Again, we are about an hour behind schedule because of technical difficulties that we had earlier today. Thank you for hanging with us. Our final block is called Scary, Thrilling, and Odd. We have several horror films. We have some twisted comedies. And our first film is actually going to be a world premiere of one of the 4 films that has been shot so far in the Klamath Basin. Those of you who are local, I think you will recognize the locations. So give us just a moment. We will load up the film Matterhorn. Also, as I had mentioned earlier today, a couple of our films are a little out of sequence. And there's a couple of tweaks we have to do, just part of the joys of some of the technical things we have going on. So bear with us a moment, and we will start up Matterhorn shortly. World premiere of a film shot in Klamath Falls.